Confucianism, also known as Ruism, is a system of philosophical and ethical socio-political teachings, sometimes described as a religion. Confucianism developed during the spring and autumn period from the teachings of the Chinese philosopher Confucius, who considered himself a retransmitter of Zhou values. Its metaphysical and cosmological elements developed in the Han Dynasty following the replacement of its contemporary, the more Taoistic Huang Lao, as the official ideology. More privately, Chinese emperors would still make use of the historical realpolitik of the Chinese, termed legalism. The disintegration of the Han in the 2nd century CE opened the way for the soteriological doctrines of Buddhism and Taoism to dominate intellectual life at that time. A Confucian revival began during the Tang dynasty. In the late Tang, Confucianism developed in response to Buddhism and Taoism and was reformulated as Neo-Confucianism. This reinvigorated form was adopted as the basis of the imperial exams and the core philosophy of the scholar official class in the Song dynasty. The abolition of the examination system in 1905 marked the end of official Confucianism. The new culture intellectuals of the early 20th century blamed Confucianism for China's weaknesses. They searched for new doctrines to replace Confucian teachings. Some of these new ideologies include the three principles of the people, with the establishment of the Republic of China, and then Maoism under the People's Republic of China. In the late 20th century, some people credited Confucianism with the rise of the East Asian economy, and it enjoyed a rise in popularity both in China and abroad, with particular emphasis on the importance of the family and social harmony, rather than on an otherworldly soteriology. The core of Confucianism is humanistic. According to the Herbert Fingarit's concept of the secular as sacred, Confucianism regards the ordinary activities of human life, and especially in human relationships, as a manifestation of the sacred, because they are the expression of our moral nature, which has a transcendent anchorage in heaven and a proper respect of the gods. While heaven has some characteristics that overlap the category of deity, it is primarily an impersonal absolute, like Tao and Brahman. Confucian liturgy led by Confucian priests or ritual masters to worship the gods in public and ancestral Chinese temples is preferred in special occasions over Taoist or popular ritual. This worldly concern of Confucianism rests on the belief that human beings are fundamentally good, and teachable, improvable, and perfectible through personal and communal endeavor, especially self-cultivation and self-creation. Confucian thought focuses on the cultivation of virtue and maintenance of ethics. Some of the basic Confucian ethical concepts and practices include Arya Qten, Yi, and Li, and Ji. Ren is the essence of the human being which manifests as compassion. It is the virtue form of heaven. Yi is the upholding of righteousness and the moral disposition to do good. Li is a system of ritual norms and propriety that determines how a person should properly act in everyday life according to the law of heaven. Ji is the ability to see what is right and fair, or the converse, in the behaviors exhibited by others. Confucianism holds one in contempt, either passively or actively, for failure to uphold the cardinal moral values of Ren and Yi. Historically, cultures and countries strongly influenced by Confucianism include mainland China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, Macau, Korea, Japan, and Vietnam, as well as various territories settled predominantly by Chinese people, such as Singapore. In the 20th century, Confucianism's influence was greatly reduced. More recently, there have been talks of a Confucian revival in the academia and the scholarly community, and there has been a grassroots proliferation of various types of Confucian churches. Names and terminology. Strictly speaking, there is no term in Chinese which directly corresponds to Confucianism. In the Chinese language, the character Ru, meaning scholar, is generally used both in the past and the present to refer to things related to Confucianism. The word Ru in ancient China has diverse meanings. Some examples include wick, soft, to tame, to comfort, and to educate. Several different terms are used in different situations, several of which are of modern origin. School of the scholars, teaching of the scholars, study of the scholars, teaching of Confucius, Kong family's business. Three of these use Ru. These names do not use the name Confucius at all, but instead center on the figure or ideal of the Confucian scholar. However, the suffixes jia, Zhou and xue acute carry different implications as to the nature of Confucianism itself. Rujia contains the character jia, which literally means house or family. In this context, it is more readily construed as meaning school of thought, since it is also used to construct the names of philosophical schools contemporary with Confucianism. For example, the Chinese names for legalism and mohism end in jia. Ru Zhao and Kong Zhao contain the Chinese character jiao, the noun teach, used in such terms as education or educator. The term, however, is notably used to construct the names of religions in Chinese. The terms for Islam, Judaism, Christianity, and other religions in Chinese all end with jiao. Rukshay contains xue acute, study. The term is parallel to ology in English, being used to construct the names of academic fields. The Chinese names of fields such as physics, chemistry, biology, political science, economics, and sociology all end in xue acute. The use of the term Confucianism has been avoided by some modern scholars, who favor Ruism or Ruists in lieu of Confucianism. Robert Dino argues that the term has been burdened with the ambiguities and irrelevant traditional associations. Ruism, as he states, is more faithful to the original Chinese name for the school. The five classics and the Confucian vision. Traditionally, Confucius was thought to be the author or editor of the five classics, which were the basic texts of Confucianism. The scholar Yao Xinzhong allows that there are good reasons to believe that Confucian classics took shape in the hands of Confucius, but that nothing can be taken for granted in the matter of the early versions of the classics. Yao reports that perhaps most scholars today hold the pragmatic view that Confucius and his followers, although they did not intend to create a system of classics, contributed to their formation. In any case, it is undisputed that for most of the last 2,000 years, Confucius was believed to have either written or edited these texts. The scholar Tu Weiming explains these classics as embodying five visions, which underlie the development of Confucianism. I Ching, or Classic of Change or Book of Changes, generally held to be the earliest of the classics, shows a metaphysical vision which combines divinatory art with numerological technique and ethical insight. Philosophy of Change sees cosmos's interaction between the two energies yin and yang. Universe always shows organismic unity and dynamism. Classic of Poetry or Book of Songs is the earliest anthology of Chinese poems and songs. It shows the poetic vision in the belief that poetry and music convey common human feelings and mutual responsiveness. Book of Documents or Book of History, compilation of speeches of major figures and records of events in ancient times, embodies the political vision, and addresses the kingly way in terms of the ethical foundation for humane government. The documents show the sagacity, filial piety, and work ethic of Yao, Shun, and Yu. They established a political culture which was based on responsibility and trust. Their virtue formed a covenant of social harmony which did not depend on punishment or coercion. Book of Rites describes the social forms, administration, and ceremonial rites of the Zhou dynasty. This social vision defined society not as an adversarial system based on contractual relations but as a community of trust based on social responsibility. The four functional occupations are cooperative. Spring and Autumn Annals chronicles the period to which it gives its name, Spring and Autumn period, and these events emphasize the significance of collective memory for communal self-identification. For reanimating the old is the best way to attain the new.